You see, in order to keep you people happy, I feel a certain inclination to play a lot of games. I mean, I get the occasional comments just saying, why isn't someone or something on a countdown, and all I can say in reply is that I just haven't played the game. So me playing more games means that less people complain?
The bottom line is that over the past year or so, I've played a metric butt ton of games, ranging from good to bad to whatever the hell Dive Kick was. I was thinking towards the end of 2013 of making a best games of 2013 countdown, but since I procrastinated the topic until now, let's just make it about the games I've played over the last year or so, including older games that I only just got around to playing within the last 12 months. Hey, it sounded better in my head. Roll the countdown! You like video games, don't you, Jimmy? No? Then get the fuck off this video! Game Dev Tycoon panders to an audience that exists because of the fact that most people who want to buy a game probably would like to make one themselves. And it's a little bit surprising that this idea hasn't been used more often. You take charge of your very own game company and work your way up the ladder through video game history. So to cover my arse, I called myself EA, meaning if I make lots of money, wow, what a realistic game! Or if I make a load of terrible games and everybody hates me, wow, what a realistic game! I'm confident that most gamers dream of one day being a game developer, or at least producing their own game. And while Game Dev Tycoon goes on about that in a very simulator fashion, it is still very rewarding to see the fruits of your labour go on to make you a lot of virtual cash. What astounds me is how much there is going on in the background. For such a simple indie game on the outset, this little simulator has pages and pages of code to keep it going, like War and Peace in code form, which, above all else, is damn impressive. When Raiden popped up in Metal Gear Solid 4 and was all like,
"Hey guys, I'm a ninja,"
that was pretty cool. When Konami said that Raiden was going to get his own game where he'd be doing this, that was pretty cool. When I finally got the chance to play Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, there were no words to describe it. This is a very strange game to prepare yourself for. I mean, Metal Gear made its name from secretive espionage, sneaking around in a conspicuous cardboard box, and generally being sly and clever with how you went about your business. So it's just as well that Metal Gear Rising does none of these. It's kind of hard to describe what this game is exactly, but if you think No More Heroes meets Metal Gear, you're not too far off. You've got your friendly neighbourhood cyber ninja Raiden here, with some sort of katana that can slice through pretty much anyone or anything. So typically this comes in handy for some ridiculous boss fights and set plays, and I'd wager this game is worth playing for those alone. Take your pick from fighting a Metal Gear Ray-Son Stinger missiles to riding these robot manta ray things up through an office building, whatever floats your boat. And of course, Metal Gear Rising always stops to remind you that it's written by a group of crazy Japanese psychopaths, with plenty of moments that you just have to stop at and look on in awe, with a special mention for the big bad guy, who's big and from Texas, and pumped full of
nanomachines, son.
Right, I'm off.
Have you ever dreamed of a game with a story on par with Metal Gear, gameplay on par with God of War, and all wrapped in an anime-style episodic format? If you did, you're quite an artistic person and I applaud that, and you've also just created Asuras Wrath. People have been bugging me to play this one for quite a while now, and holy hell am I glad that I did. It's got just about everything that I look for in a game nowadays. Over-the-top action sequences? Check. Gigantic boss fights? Check. One really angry protagonist? Oh, check. The Hindu and Buddhist mythology is a nice touch too, especially since every game under the sun seems to go for Greek. But unfortunately, it doesn't quite have as much violence in gameplay as it does in some of the lengthy cutscenes. You know when I said it had a story on par with Metal Gear? Well, I don't mean that it's one of the greatest stories ever told, more so that it's a game that is very cutscene driven. Thankfully, the story behind it is pretty incredible, but it leaves the gameplay a little bit short, meaning that on most difficulties you can just spam random buttons and probably do fine. It's still flashy like hell, but there's not as much substance as games like God of War or Devil May Cry, and you'll be done with the game in no time at all. Even so, Asuras Wrath still has a certain charm to it. Very few games have made QuickTime events something this satisfying, and yet respectful of how awake the average gamer is in cutscenes. There's just something about Asuras Wrath. Maybe it's the sporadic character traits seen throughout the game, or just how well the anime episode format is played out. Or maybe there's still the 7-year-old in me who just likes to see shiny things and things explode.
You know, that's probably it actually.
When Nintendo announced another Super Mario game with new at the start for the Wii U, I immediately wrote it off as another shameless attempt to keep a tired old mini-series going. Turns out though that it's a halfway decent game and great for multiplayer, but because I had more fun with Super Mario 3D World, I'm gonna go with that. Anyone who's played Super Mario 3D Land on the 3DS will take to this game very well, but for others it's a mixture of a fully open 3D Mario game like Galaxy or 64 and something a little bit more two-dimensional. The end result is actually pretty spectacular, especially when you get some more people together for that all-important multiplayer. To be honest, I'm not quite sure why I like this game so much. I mean, part of it is down to how much there is to do in this game. Somewhere between completing all 12 worlds, getting all the green stars, finding all the stamps, and finishing every stage with every character, it's significantly harder to fully complete the game. Especially when you consider that other Super Mario games were more like
Super Mario Sunshine! That was really easy.
Part of me kinda hopes they don't go too far with this series, as I am still holding out for a proper 3D Mario game like Sunshine or Galaxy, but for now, I'd say this will do. For all of what Mario offers to the video game world, and especially to the world of platform games, sometimes it's a better experience to have a simpler game. It's kind of why Super Mario World is still my favourite Mario game. When you have a simple concept with a tight engine, it allows for the creativity in the game to take over, which is Rayman Origins in abundance. Oh man, this game is fantastic! Taking a series like Rayman, which is like Mario, but far more off the wall and in places more creative, and making it full 4-player co-op is one of the greatest recent decisions in gaming. Like, good god sir, I'm not entirely sure what the hell's going on here, but whatever it is, it's very colourful and frantic like fuck. Thinking about it a bit more, I can only think of one game that is as creative as this, and that's Donkey Kong Country Returns.
So it's in good company, you know?
I haven't had the opportunity to play Rayman Legends, which I'm told is even better, but Rayman Origins is the perfect blend between artistic flair and sheer batshit insanity. They always say there's a bit of madness in genius, and my word is that put to application here. Come on, be honest. When we all saw the trailer for Pokemon X and Y, we all flipped tables and marched down the street proclaiming that the saviour of the Pokemon series was on its way, and that we should all repent our sins at doubting Game Freak.
Was that just me?
Yeah, I think most people overacted a little bit with these games. I mean, they're still above and beyond anything we've seen from Pokemon before, Walking Diagonally does that all on its own, but they weren't quite the groundbreakers that they were initially touted to be. Strip them down to their bare bones and you're still just collecting badges so you can challenge the Elite Four, so you can become the best Pokemon dude guy, and let's face it, it's been that way since 1996. So, what exactly are these games? Well, they're both pretty good, that might be why they're on here in the first place. It's not so much a complete overhaul of the franchise, more so tiny little improvements made across most areas of the Pokemon formula that's worked so well. When it comes to what these games did radically different, it really comes down to combining the handheld games with the console ones, taking the best from both to create this strangely satisfying experience. Most of it is, oh my pickles, look at the 3D Pokemon! But even the Mega Evolutions are a nice addition, that might become cheap and a little overpowered with time. If there was ever such thing as a safe leap forward for a series, these games would fit the bill very nicely. Animal Crossing on a handheld is one of those thoughts that seems so obvious now, but you wonder what took them so long. Wild World on the DS was the breakthrough the series needed, and so when New Leaf came around on the 3DS, Nintendo could go crazy. Life simulation games like Animal Crossing aren't the sort of games that you spend 5 minutes on and put down, oh no. These are dedications to a virtual world, knowing you have to put in so much time and effort to reap your rewards. But what makes New Leaf so different, and indeed different from other games in its franchise? Well, the short answer is not a lot, but that's hardly a problem. The previous Animal Crossing game for the Wii had basically everything you would need from a colourful, cheery life simulator game thing like Animal Crossing. But New Leaf just seems to make a lot of small, occasionally hardly even noticeable improvements throughout the game, ranging from slightly more obvious ones like making you the mayor of your town, giving you a ton and a half of customizable options, to more obscure enhancements like some extra shops like the dance club. Love the dance club, everybody go to that dance club. I'm not saying that the Wii Animal Crossing was perfect by any means, but it didn't need too many massive, drastic improvements to make a new game, meaning the new Leaf didn't have a lot to work with. Even Wild World on the DS was such an enthralling experience because you could take your town with you on a car journey, or pick it up and play it whenever you want. New Leaf is kind of that brilliant combo between the portability of Wild World and the quality features in Let's Go to the City, or City Folk, or whatever the hell you want to call it.
And let's face it, you're going to spend a lot of time on New Leaf. It's the Animal Crossing curse, you can't escape it.
Do you remember when Nintendo announced that they were going to release not one, but 2 remakes of classic Zelda titles? People, including me I must add, were frothing at the mouth in anticipation of Majoras Mask HD, a dark and moody game brought into the modern era of gaming, with glorious high-definition visuals. This, of course, never happened, and instead Nintendo gave us 2 remakes very few saw coming. The first was of course Wind Waker HD, which isn't on here because, come on guys, it'll be number 1 for sure, and I've kinda played it before on the GameCube. And the second was A Link to the Past, which wasn't a remake at all. I went into Legend of Zelda A Link Between Worlds with the expectation that it would just be a glorified remake with maybe a couple of aesthetic changes and some tweaked mechanics. Gladly, when I booted it up and saw that everything bar the overworld was different, the sweetest satisfaction, the kind you seldom see in video games that follow more of a formula, made me realise that this was going to be a very different game to what I initially thought. It's strange actually, the 3DS still hasn't got a completely original Zelda title on its books, but when Nintendo comes around to making one, if it's anything like A Link Between Worlds, then it will be treated to something incredible. By this stage in the franchise's lifespan, pretty much all of the mechanics have been used time and time again, but that's hardly a bad thing at this point. They've been perfected to a friggin' art form. Even so, there's still the occasional curveball thrown in for good measure, like the ability to play the dungeons in any order, or the whole turning into a painting thing. Just signs that Nintendo still know what they're doing, and how to keep a game feeling fresh.
Even so, I still want Majora's Mask HD. Could you just imagine all those little aspects of Majora's Mask in HD? Like the Happy Mask Salesman, things like the moon, things like those different kind of masks. That would be so cool.
The outbreak of a zombie apocalypse, or variations thereupon, has been done far beyond Death and Back. It's the single most cliched of cliched plotlines, and has been satirised more often nowadays because people just can't find enough room for creativity and imagination in the genre anymore. So explain to me why The Last of Us stands as one of the best games of all time. Okay, so it's technically not a zombie outbreak type game, but the idea is still the same. Worldwide infection that trashes the entire planet and people try and survive. The same thing we've seen for decades now. But this is what makes The Last of Us a bit of an enigma. Something that bucks the trend just enough that it leaves one hell of a lasting impact. Survival games seem to always be about gameplay and realism, but The Last of Us turns its attention towards what becomes an outstanding plot. Not so much for what happens in the game, you could have predicted most of that, more for the characters themselves. It says something when people are tipping the film adaptation to not be a pile of shit, which is what normally happens when you transfer a video game to a movie. The pieces are all in place, a father who's lost his daughter, a teenage girl who he's got to help escape to a quarantine zone, and the up and down relationship that unfolds. Mind you, The Last of Us is hardly lacking as a game. It's nothing particularly revolutionary, but it definitely isn't an area that lets the game down. It's kind of a mix between stealth, adventure, and exploring the world around you, which when you stick that all in a setting like this, it kind of sorts itself out. Though that probably has more to do with The Last of Us being developed by Naughty Dog, the makers of games like the Jak and Daxter games and friggin' Crash Bandicoot.
Hey, if The Last of Us is one of the best-selling PS3 games of all time, and Naughty Dog are just raking in the money, does that mean we can finally get a new Crash Bandicoot game? A guy can dream, guys. A guy can dream.
Oh, would you look at that? BioShock Infinite and The Last of Us at number 1 and number 2 on another countdown. It's almost like these games are really good or something, I don't know, it's just So allow me to tell you all about a little game called BioShock Infinite with a simple story. When I eventually got around to playing it, I was enthralled in a way that I've never been with a game before. I got through BioShock Infinite in 2 sessions, the first of which was literally most of a day. The combination of playing the game for such a long time without a break, and all the actiony stuff going on within the game, caused my eyes to physically hurt when I finally put the game down for the day, which for all my years playing games has never happened before.
Don't do drugs, kids. Wait.
But all of this is a good thing, a fantastic thing. Too often in recent years, I've started playing games and put them down after a couple of hours because they just weren't engaging enough. Bioshock Infinite laughs in the face of this problem, with a gripping plot, incredibly real characters, and fantastic gameplay. I mean, I could go on about all of these, but I've mentioned them before, so I'll move elsewhere. My fear going into Bioshock Infinite was that I wouldn't like it. I went into the first Bioshock game thinking that it really wouldn't be my thing, that I would have wasted quite a bit of money on something that just wouldn't do much for me. Bioshock 1 and 2 were fantastic, but I had the same feeling before Bioshock Infinite because of how different it was. It wasn't the ambiguous, dark, isolated first-person shooter that the first two games were, but given a little bit of time, and Bioshock Infinite flourished into an absolutely worthy successor. It's still got that level of intrigue, that massive plot twist towards the end that you spend a good couple of days trying to get your head around. It's still part of that game series that keeps on surprising.
This has been rabbidluigi, and I know I said this for last time I talked about Bioshock Infinite, but if you know what's good for you, you'll go get that game. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.